Qué gusto estar acá, un honor poder hablar después de nuestro cónsul. Muchas gracias por todo lo que hace el consulado acá en Perú, acá en el área de la Bahía. Y muchas gracias al equipo de Perú, Silicon Valley, por organizar esto. Los conozco hace varios años, sé que esto era un sueño grande que tenían ustedes y es increíble ver esto que ahora es realidad, ¿no? Muchas gracias. Yo preparé mi presentación en inglés. Estoy acá hace ya 20 años, o sea que les voy a hablar en inglés. Y les voy a contar un poquito de mi historia, las cosas que he aprendido, a ver si, ojalá que no los ponga a dormir. Bueno, estoy acá como les digo, hace ya casi 20 años, y antes de llegar acá yo estaba terminando mi carrera, los estudios en Perú. Me graduaba de, I was finishing high school, so I had to figure out what to study. And I had no idea, right? So what I saw is that everybody I knew was either, if they were good at math, they were picking industrial engineering. If they were not, they were doing business administration. And my father, he was an industrial engineer, and that's how I chose my career, right? So that was a long time ago. I joined the Universidad Peruana de Ciencias Aplicadas, and after a year and a half, I was able to transfer here to the US to Purdue University, which has a really good industrial engineering school. So I finished my degree there. And when I was looking for a job, I was really lucky. IBM reached out to me, and they invited me to interview here. I came to the interview. The address was on Silicon Valley Boulevard. I was so excited that I was going to be in downtown Silicon Valley with all these buildings, all these live, and it ends up that Silicon Valley Boulevard is in the middle of nowhere in South San Jose. So that's a side note. But I worked at IBM for a couple of years. It was a great experience, and I learned a couple of things there. So I learned about innovator's dilemma from the inside, right? So when you're a big company, you have an incentive to protect your business, to maintain that cash flow, you're profitable. So going outside of the boundaries, taking risks is something that is discouraged at a big company for many, many different things. Those are some things that big companies are trying to change, but it's really hard for a big company to change when you have a cash cow, right? So, and the other thing I learned was that after a year in a big company, I wasn't really learning new things anymore, right? So I wasn't being challenged anymore, and I was still young, I wanted to learn more. So I saved enough money to cover one year of my master's degree. I applied to Stanford, I was able to get in, and the plan was to just finish my degree in management science and engineering, and then move on from that. And my life changed when I took one of the classes at the EE department. I took a class in computer networks, and that blew my mind. I finally found my passion. I finally had found what I actually wanted to work on, and it was technology. It was the intersection of computer science and electrical engineering. And the 1 year actually converted into 6 years. I spent over 6 years at Stanford, got my PhD. My thesis was about the capacity of wireless networks, but I had only saved for 1 year, so I had to figure out how to pay the rest. People typically do a research assistantship or TA, and I was able to actually find a job outside of the university, and it started as a full-time internship at a company called Wise. It was a small company that was trying to reinvent itself. I was one of the only research engineers there, and they offered to pay for my study, so it was a great deal. And over there, that's where I actually started learning what coding was, right? So I kind of learned at the job, hacking my way around. I didn't have a formal CS background, but things started working out, and we were working with a company called VMware. VMware at that point was already a multi-billion-dollar company, very successful on the virtualization side, and they had a problem around virtualizing Windows machines. They had a problem that they said it was impossible to crack, and we were able to put a small team together of really smart individuals at Wise, and working a couple of months on that, we were able to figure it out, and that was the start of our software business for the company. Wise was a hardware business, and we started a whole new software division. By the time we sold Wise to Dell, it was a $1 billion acquisition. The software business was a big part of that, and we had over 150 software engineers working for the company. So I was able to grow through the ranks. I was a chief software architect for the company, and that was an amazing experience. And the big takeaway there was that, I mean, with a small team, you can sometimes actually make the impossible happen, right? So that was a big lesson for me. The other thing I learned at Wise, as the team was growing, as I was having to do more the business side of things, was that my formal engineering background wasn't enough, right? So in engineering, everything, it's a precise science, right? So you have an algorithm, you have math, but that's not how life works, right? So life and success on the business side, you have to use your left brain and your right brain together, right? So it's all about leveraging hard skills and soft skills and combining them. And I had already finished my PhD, but I wanted to explore teaching, right? So learning was a passion, so maybe teaching was something good. So I wanted to talk about this, and I went to my Stanford advisor, told him about this idea of teaching a class at a community college, and he was like, Daniel, just come here, do it at Stanford. And I was like, what? Am I gonna teach at Stanford? I've never taught in my life. How do I do that, right? So he helped me out. I prepared a proposal for the university. They accepted my class. It was a graduate class in the engineering department. The class is titled Leading Trends in Information Technology, and it wasn't about just the technology, but it was actually about understanding all these business aspects and the market dynamics, and we started talking about cloud computing and big data when those things were not hot themes yet, right? So I'm trying to understand that intersection, and the idea was to start the class and do it on a trial, see how many people, if people liked it. The first year, we actually were completely oversubscribed for the class with over 100 students that wanted to take the class, and the class ended up being ranked as the best class that summer in the engineering department. So fast forward, I taught the class for 8 years, right? So what I learned there was, I mean, if you're going to do something, just aim high, right? Because you never know, it might just happen for you. And those are, I guess, some of the things that I've been learning in my career here. And I guess just to summarize, right? Always be learning something new, evolving. Technology is changing so fast. Always try to get new skills, right? So the other thing, small teams, they can make really big things happen, and that's kind of at the core of Silicon Valley, right? And that the opportunities for companies are actually at the intersection of business and technology, right? So you need to understand, and those two things are complementary, and that's how you can actually thrive. And finally, to aim big and take risks, right? So that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. And we sold Wise to Dell, right? So I had a decision to make. Everybody after a big acquisition gets golden handcuffs, right? So you get a nice retention package to stick around. I had a pregnant wife, so I mean, it was an obvious choice, right? Stick around for 3 years, but I guess by now you probably know what I did. I quit my job without knowing what I was gonna do. I actually didn't have a salary or anything, and no vesting for the rest of all the money I had left at Wise. And I quit my job without knowing what to do, with no salary, nothing, a pregnant wife. I mean, she must really love me, right? So she really loves me. She's been always there for me, always very supportive. And I decided I wanted to do a startup, and I had to be able to apply these things, and I had to do it in a consumer space, because all my experience up to that point had been in B2B, right? So I wanted to do something in the consumer space to learn that. I wanted to be with a positive, something that would make a positive impact in people's lives, right? So I more than just generating money or becoming rich, I wanted to be something that was meaningful for people. And I wanted it to be big, right? So that's based on the lessons I had learned. So before I continue, I just want to ask you a quick question. for you guys, where do you typically get your news? What are your top apps or services that you use to get news? Apple News? Google News? Facebook? Twitter? RPP? El Bocón? No? Well, we decided that we're going to compete with all of them, right? So definitely there's something wrong with me. And we started Haystack TV to lead the future of TV news. And let me tell you a little bit about the story. We started this 5 years ago. This is focusing on the TV, what is called now the OTT space. This is a very hot space, there's like what we call the streaming wars going on. The TV environment is actually completely changing. It's expected in a couple of years, most of the revenues for the industry are actually going to be coming from services like this instead of your traditional cable or broadcast TV, right? So the whole industry is changing, and it's following a trend that we've already seen on the radio side. On radio, right, so the transformation actually happened a couple of years earlier. Now, over 50% of all revenues are coming from services like Spotify and Pandora and things like that. So the same transformation is happening to TV, and specifically entertainment TV. Netflix is probably the best known success on this front, right? You have all the content players at the top, and I guess what the platform players with all the big names. Apple, right, who is also doing, just announced Apple TV. They are also doing content. You have Amazon doing content on the platform. You have Roku now that is a multi-billion-dollar company growing really fast. You have Google, right? They all want to own a piece of the platform, and you have all these content companies, completely new brands that didn't exist 10 years ago that are dominating this space. And Netflix, when you think about Netflix, you have to think of it as an actual TV company, right? So over almost 70% of the usage of Netflix is happening on these connected TV environments, on your smart TV, on a Roku device, on a Fire TV. And that's the space that we're going after, right? So the way we see ourselves, we want to do the same thing that Netflix and Hulu are doing for entertainment TV, but we want to do it for news TV. And a big difference here is that most of the business model is different, right? So news, we see it as a free service as opposed to a paid subscription service, which is most of the other services you saw there. And we've also learned a lot of things about the news industry that we had no clue about 5 years ago when we started. We've learned that the TV news industry actually is mainly composed by local TV stations in the US. This is a $20 billion industry, and most of it is local TV stations. It's not CNN, it's not Fox News. It's actually hundreds of TV stations across the country, and TV is still the #1 way in the US to get news, right? So if you ask people, do you prefer to watch the news, read the news, or listen to the news? Most people will say, I want to watch the news. And still, local TV news is huge, right? So it's a $20 billion industry that is not going anywhere. But only 5% of that has gone through this digital transformation, right? Most of that revenue is still cable, it's still broadcast TV, and that's the opportunity that we identified. So how to tackle this? How to tackle this massive problem? We created a haystack, and let me actually give you a intro video on the product. Let's see if hopefully this plays.
Several stations. They might hold a jury delivery. Our ingredients and sunscreen.
So that's one of the things about high temperature. Yeah, that'll work as a plan.
So what we're doing is creating a personalized newscast for people, right? So TV news hasn't evolved in the last 20 years. You turn on cable news and you see the same story repeating every 20 minutes, Everybody has a bias. Everybody has a perspective on the news. It's really hard to focus your newscast on things that you actually care about, and we've built that from the ground up, right? So if you come to Haystack TV, you will get a personalized newscast with the stories around topics you care about, with your local news stories, with your tech stories, with your entertainment and celebrity gossip stories, and the system learns based on what you're doing and how you use it. You can personalize it. It's very similar to how Spotify works, if you think about it, right? So Spotify, everybody, each of us, we have our own radio stations. So why not have your own newscast, right? So this is what we've been building. But we had to connect a lot of dots to be able to get the content, to be able to get the users, the distribution. So what we did first is try to prove the concept, try to build something that worked, and show it to people and get feedback. And one of the big wins we got was in 2017, which is as part of the Google Play Awards, which rewards the top applications in the Android ecosystem. They selected us as one of the top 3 US best TV experience services. And we were next to Netflix, right? So they helped us, put us on the stage and validated that what we were built, that we were on the right track. We then turned around and started using this to get the content, get the users, and grow the business. Now, fast forward 5 years, we've been able to get hundreds of news publications on board. At the beginning, this was really hard because imagine I had to pitch, for example, here, ABC. ABC is owned by Disney, right? So we went to Disney and we're like, hey, want to work with Haystack? Give us your content, right? And what they were hearing was, this is a really small company, only a couple of people, they don't have any revenue, and they wanted me to give them my content for free so that they can build their company and maybe compete with us in 10 years if they become very successful like Netflix, right? So it was crazy, right? And nobody was giving us the time of day. It was really hard, and this is where I learned a big thing. If you want to do a startup, you have to, it's like the idea is nothing, right? So ideas are free. So it's all about the grind and the perseverance. And I mean, it's been many years, a lot of emails, a lot of calls, a lot of just selling. I learned how to become a salesperson. But now we have hundreds of TV stations, hundreds of publications on board that are making millions of dollars on Haystack TV. And they are pretty happy, right? So some of them are actually doubling down, giving us more content. I have meetings with these companies on a weekly basis. And now the last couple of deals, they happen because the word is spreading out and they know about Haystack and they want to make more money on their existing content. So the last couple of deals have been all inbound traffic from big multi-billion-dollar corporations that want to work with us, which is kind of exciting. And we have the local news market, remember, right? So we now have local news for 85% of the country and going to 90% pretty soon. So we have local news that we hyper-localize. So if you are in Berkeley, the newscast you'll get will be different than if you are in San Jose, right? That's something that traditional TV and broadcast TV cannot do, but because we operate at a different layer, we can do things like that. We can make it a lot better. And what that is doing is that it's leading into more engagement, more consumption of the same content, and the publishers are happier because they are making more money on the content they are already creating. So now we have the content, we have the other thing the other piece of the pie was getting the users, getting the distribution, and let me see. And actually, so one of the things we had to do is work with all the TV OEMs, right? So on all of these, we've signed direct relationships, right? And again, this was, at the time, for some of these deals, a 5-person company signing a deal with a Sony, right? So it was kind of crazy, but we made it happen. In many of these TVs, we're preloaded. We're preloaded on millions of TVs today. You go to Best Buy, get a TV, take it out of the box, and you'll see Haystack next to Netflix, right? Which is pretty awesome. And we just got our first deal to start having Haystack TV on the remote controls too, right? So it's been pretty exciting. We've been able to make a lot of progress on this front. And now, after a couple of years being on Roku, Roku is the #1 streaming platform, we're playing with the big boys, right? So big boys and big girls. So these are the rankings, the last I took this snapshot a couple of days ago of all the top free channels on Roku. And we were ranked number 16 across everything, right? So all those companies are multi-billion-dollar companies with huge marketing budgets. But again, with a small team, we're being able to compete and play at this level, right? So one of the things that was missing for us one of the things that was missing for us, that at least in my career, I had at Wise and Stanford and Haystack, the only reason I interacted with Peru was for vacation. I went to Peru for vacation once a year, right? Until I met the Peru SV team and they opened my eyes, right? So there's really smart people in Peru. Why don't start working with the community there? Why you don't start building bridges? And we decided a year ago, back in December of last year, we hired our first remote engineer in Lima. He's a iOS developer. We gave him hard problems. We treated him the same way we treat our engineers here in Silicon Valley, really high expectations, very little direction, and he outperformed our expectations, right? So it was a huge surprise. We were like, one of the biggest mistakes I've made at Haystack was not tapping that opportunity before, right? So then we hired the second person, the third person, and now we've already hired a team of 6 people. We're going to 10 people. So we're going from nothing to 10 people in the first year, and that team is really, really performing. Some of those guys and girls are as good, if not better, than people that I've hired here in the U.S., and I've hired hundreds of people that have worked now at Google, Facebook, Yahoo. This team is at the same level, right? So that's something that I'm really proud of, and I thank the community here for helping me and encouraging me to do this. And this is why I'm here, to share my story, share what we've done, what we've accomplished, to tell you to aim big, take risks, right? And tap these opportunities that we have as Peruvians to compete at a global scale, but taking advantage of some of the tools and resources that other people don't have, right? So with that, I guess I'll close it and open it up for questions. Yeah. Oh, so there's going to be a mic going around. Just raise your hand.
Hi, great presentation. This is very exciting app. I never heard about it before, but I'm sure I want to hear more about it now. Question is like, how do you overcome the criticize actually addressing some of the main platforms such as Facebook or Google when it comes to the echo chamber, right?
Regarding what?
Echo chamber, because you like a certain type of news, you get more of the same, and therefore you can never have a different perspective of politics or just a different way on the world.
Absolutely. So that's a big thing for us. Our mission as a company is to empower independent thinkers. So this is why we're doing this, to empower independent thinkers. If we are not accomplishing that, then we're not doing our job right. And the way we tackle that is on Haystack, actually we make it easy for you to discover different points of view. And we only have curated and high quality trusted news. We don't have any fake news. We don't have user-generated content. It's only trusted sources, and we make it very easy for you to see the left point of view and the right point of view, and to learn more about what people are saying about topics and explore new things. So that's kind of how we tackle it. Hope that addresses your point. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about what you said, that you're personalizing the news. That's very risky, because it could mean that you can only read what you're interested in from your perspective, and that's the big problem now. People are not knowing what the others are thinking. millennials, for instance, I mean, I think there are some millennials here or not. It's impossible to discuss with a millennial. The millennial thinks in one way, and if you are feeding him with the news that he wants to read, then will be even worse. That's my worry.
So I think that goes back to the previous comment, and that's a big thing that we actually want to address, right? So unlike traditional social networks, where it's all clickbaity stuff and you end up going to a silo, we do have an editorial team, a curation team. We make sure that on Haystack we have multiple points of view. So unlike if you're a Fox News viewer on cable, you will only get one perspective. If you're a MSNBC viewer, you will only get a perspective. If you are on YouTube, you might end up on a silo of content. On Haystack, we make it, from a user experience perspective, we make it very simple and very easy to actually expose you to multiple perspectives, because that is the risk that we're seeing, right? That's the fear we have. And we want to empower independent thinkers. The only way we know is to make sure that they are actually exposed to multiple points of view that are not the same as their own. So that's something that we have at our core and that we're trying to address on a daily basis.
Over here, to your right. Great presentation. Can you elaborate a little bit on the technical problems that your engineers work in from a technical perspective?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and one of the things, I guess, on the engineering side, how we hire, how we recruit, because we're a small team, we don't look for specialists in one thing. We look for generalists, for problem solvers. And we have problems. I mean, right now we have to support, I think, like 12, 13 different platforms. We just released on Samsung, on LG, on different platforms. So just making that sustainable, that has been hard. On the back end, on the streaming side, that has been hard. On the personalization side, on the editorial tools, on addressing some of the issues that you already raised. So that's been hard. So there's, again, it's a mix of the technical challenges, but also understanding the human and the business side of things, and being able to solve those together. So there's not, I wouldn't say, I mean, we've faced a lot of different technology problems in AI, big data, machine learning, but there's not like just one particular thing that I would, I guess, say we focus on. Yeah. Yes?
Yeah, first, congratulations. Yeah, this is great. So you said you have an editorial team. So my question to you is how do you think about scaling, and how important is AI for your company right now, and how do you see it in the future?
I mean, it's really important, right? So it's we do have a human team, an editorial team that is helping curate, analyze, make sure that the quality is working well, and we're always working on new tools, making sure that we can accelerate and facilitate their job. So it's a mix. I mean, AI is going to be really important for us, but it's finding that balance. What is the bigger challenge? Yeah. Yes.
Great presentation. Thank you very much for showing your story. The question I have is about these partners that you have, the publishers. I know from previous work that many of them are concerned, a little bit scared with the digital transformation. They're kind of like plateauing on the revenue or even losing ground. So given that situation, that concern or even fear that they have, how do you address that situation to be able to connect with them and convince them that you can deliver value to them?
Yeah. It's hard, right? So we haven't convinced everybody. So I don't know if we don't have the perfect playbook yet. But at the end of the day, a lot of these businesses are looking at revenue, right? So and now finally we're at a point where we're driving meaningful results for them. So the conversations have been easier now. Before it was a little bit more challenging, I guess. It actually helped the fact that they've already chosen to publish some of this content on YouTube and Facebook. That really helped, right? Because we were basically telling them, the content is already out, just let's have a direct relationship so we can continue streaming that. But But this is always this is an ongoing challenge for us. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I have two questions. So how much has Haystack TV changed since you found it? What is the biggest change in the business model that you think is important to understand how it is today? And how many people do you have in your editorial team, and what is their profile?
So the company, I mean, so the question is how did how has the company changed and how big is the team? The company has changed a lot, right? So it's the core of what we do has always been the same, which was serving the video news space. One of the big changes that we've had maybe along the way is focusing more on these TV platforms instead of the mobile platforms, although I encourage all of you to download Haystack TV on your phone and give us a 5-star rating. But yeah, so focusing and learning about the TV environment, that's something that, I mean, we've changed a lot on because we've been learning along the way. And we're still a really small team, right? So across the company, we're under 20 people. And what we do is we just closed another round of funding, right? But it's always a challenge, and we're still in our early stages, our growth stages, and it's hopefully will be a lot bigger in a couple of years. But yeah, we still have a very, very small team. Yes. Cool. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here. I'll be around.